Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
To a lot of you. So Rodgers is back with the Steelers. Big whoop. No surprise. I don't know if everybody had the same reaction you did when I was at my kids' end of school carnival and I saw it pop up and I'm like, kind of shrugged my shoulders. I'm like, okay, cool. It was just, I figured it was going to happen anyways. So, wasn't like, oh my God, or like upset or anything like that. I was just like, okay, whatever, cool, sort of thing. But the question thrown out there is, are you still rooting for him if it doesn't factor into the Packers, if it doesn't affect the Packers? Are you still rooting for him? So say Green Bay's out of the postseason and the Steelers are in it. Are you rooting for Aaron to win another championship before he calls it a career? Or has the last couple of years just annoyed you so much and frustrated you so much you don't want to see the guy hoist another Lombardi trophy? I've got no problem if it doesn't affect the Packers. So like, I guess in this case, if it's like Packers versus Steelers in the Super Bowl, of course I'm going Packers 101 times out of 100. Okay? It's always the team for me. Team above any player. It's always the team. So, of course, it's always Green Bay. But if the Packers are out of it, yeah, I've got no problem, rooting for him to get another championship to his career. We always have, when your favorite team is out, for a lot of us, then we just kind of naturally hitch our wagon to another team when it comes to the playoffs. It happens. It naturally happens. We don't know who that team's going to be at times, but, especially when we get to a Super Bowl, right? When we get to that Super Bowl, it's like, okay, I'm rooting for this team to win because I can't stand that team, or it's just a feel-good story, or whatever the reason may be. It just kind of naturally happens. I always say I don't have a second favorite team, and I don't have a second favorite team. Like, my kid will always ask me, well, who's your second and third favorite team? I don't have them. I don't. It's Packers, it's Brewers, it's Bucks. I know I'm an old Orlando Magic fan, but it's I don't really follow the Magic. It's my main ones, and then we'll see how the season goes and playoffs, and then you kind of hitch your wagon to a team like it's a feel good story, or you just really don't like the other team. Case in point, the NBA Finals, I don't like the Pacers, so I'm rooting for the Thunder. Stanley Cup Finals, I'm rooting for the Oilers. Want to see them win it, plus with Ty Emerson. So if the Steelers are still alive, they're in it, and the Packers are out of it, yeah, I don't have a problem. If it happens, it happens. All right? I don't think it's going to be, unless all of a sudden Rodgers starts trash talking and just going after Green Bay and with all these comments or whatever. And that's the thing too, is that he hasn't. Right? I mean, he hasn't. Really, he has nothing but positive stuff to say. I mean, and as Seabaum noted earlier too, I mean, he's even still trash talking about the Bears, for crying out loud. So I don't, from a football sense, I don't have a problem if he wins another championship this year, if Green Bay is out of it. But it's always going to be Green Bay. I know a lot of people, and I it's just kind of, and I get it. Some fans are just, they're fans of a certain athlete, not necessarily the team. They put the athlete, the player above. And I know a lot of people who were like that with Favre. They were Favre fans, and they followed Favre to Minnesota. They were Favre fans. So by default, they were Packers fans for all those years. But as soon as Favre left, then they were donning Favre Vikings jerseys. That's not me. I'm team. Because players come and go. And for some teams, they come and go too. But for a team like Green Bay, that team's always going to be there. And that's why it's hard for me, too, at times to be like an NBA fan, because that is such an individualized sport. I mean, what are we talking about now with Giannis? Is he going to be leaving? Is he going to be traded? Baseball, yeah, I get that. That's kind of the point, too, with baseball. But that still seems to be more of a team game at this point. Staying with the Pack, give me a player that you think isn't really being talked a lot about, or really hasn't been mentioned as like, okay, this is a guy that has to step up this year or is going to have a breakout year. So I'm thinking like, okay, Jordan Love is not this, Jane Reed's not this, Tucker Kraft to an extent is not this, because we've talked about him a lot and people have talked about him a lot. You know, we've heard the coaches say he's going to be more involved, has to be more involved in the offense. You know, defensively, you know, we've said, well, Lucas Van Ness has to be that guy and such. But who's a guy that's just not been talked about a lot so far this offseason? And I know it's June 6th. But who's like your June 6th guy that you think is just going to maybe kind of ball out this year? Like I was catching up on some reading last night. And you know, with Packers OTAs another week coming and gone and such. And I was reading Rob Demovsky's piece, our friend Rob from ESPN. And it was about Romeo Doubs. And as he pointed out, it was like why the title of the piece was why Packers Romeo Doubs has a lot on the line in 2025. And we know his contract's coming up. And you hear Matt LaFleur, you know, a couple quotes. He said he looks great out there. I don't know if you guys could tell a difference in his physique. He does look like a specimen out there, but he does a great job. And then Romeo did talk to the media too, and obviously was asked about last year in the suspension and such. And the quote from him was, "I'm going to be completely honest with you, man. Is there some regret behind that? There is. But obviously that what's in the past stays in the past. And I'm here with you all just answering these questions to the best of my ability." When he was asked what he learned from his experience, he said, to be a better communicator. Talking about the concussion, too, he said it was a long process, talking about his recovery. Obviously, it's very unfortunate to go out of a game with concussion. I made sure I took care of myself this offseason. I just look forward to my process and progress throughout the course of this year. My goal going into this year is to be a winner, obviously to be a player within this offense, and ultimately to help out two new receivers that are here learning the system. LaFleur also said that he's come in and he's just worked, and obviously he's played a lot of snaps for us and he's had a lot of production, so I'm excited about where he's at. A little nugget that I learned in Rob's piece too. While Romeo Doubs is tied for 23rd in the NFL amongst NFL in touchdown catches and such, and he's had some good games, he has yet to have a 100-yard game. He has yet to have a 100-yard game. That was a little nugget that I did not know. And, you know, when I'm reading this and I'm thinking about, you know, okay, especially when it comes to the wide receivers, you know, you got everybody's talking about Jane Reed. Jane Reed being the guy. Jane Reed being number one. Then you got Matthew Golden. Then you got Savion Williams coming in that. And then Tucker Kraft, you know, being more involved in the passing game. You know, we're focusing on these guys. And I'm just like, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Doubs goes out and just flipping balls out this year. Like, he goes and balls out. I mean, on one hand, how many times have we seen that with guys entering a contract year and looking for a big payday? They go out and they ball out for that year, and they go out and get themselves a big contract. And good for them, whether it's with their current team or with a different team. But, you know, for a lot of attention, I think, is going to be paid on a guy like Jane Reed. A lot of attention is going to be paid on a rookie, Matthew Golden, because of the speed. I think Tucker Kraft they're going to try to get him involved more in the game. And I think, you know, if you're an opponent preparing for that, you're going to prepare for that. And I just think that kind of sets up Romeo Doubs to potentially have a ball-out year. The more I was thinking about it, and the more my gut was telling me in my head, was kind of telling me too. It was like, I feel like that's the guy. If I'm sitting here in June and I had to pick a guy that maybe we haven't talked a ton about in terms of like production and producing on the field, I feel like it might be Dobbs, because as soon as Matthew Golden was drafted, as soon as Savion Williams was drafted, what was the talk? It was like, oh, pack your bags, Romeo Dobbs. Pack your bags, Christian Watson. And I do think they're on notice. And I think Romeo Dobbs is on notice. I mean, Romeo Dobbs, after the draft, that was the popular guy. Like, oh, watch out, he's going to be traded. Trade him. Trade him. Get something in return. Teams should be calling Green Bay. You know, what was one of the talks, too, with the whole DK Metcalf? It's like, trade Romeo to Seattle for DK Metcalf. That's really the only time we talked about Romeo Dobbs in the offseason. Was trade. He's gone. He gone after the drafts. He's out of there. Factor in last year with the suspension, the concussions, 2 of them. It's like, yeah, he's gone. And he very well could be after this year. I'm not doubting that. I think after this year, there's a very good chance that Romeo Dobbs will not be suiting up for the Packers. But would you be that surprised if he balled out and had a career year this year? I wouldn't be. If he put up over 1,000 yards, had his first 100-yard game. I feel like he is that guy that, again, at this point in time, and maybe he'll be talked about more when training camp opens up, and we get to closer to the actual games. I just feel like right now he's that guy that maybe we're sleeping on just a little bit. Just a little bit. I mean, he's got all the motivation in the world to go out there and ball out. Surveyor says, no one is talking about Edgerrin Cooper. I think the man is about to be a perennial all-pro. He plays with instinct and uses athleticism the same way Luke Kuechly played. This is coming out year for the rest of the league. I'd slightly disagree with the fact that nobody's talking about him, Surveyor. I'd slightly disagree with that. I mean, last week or so we were talking about him when, LaFleur came out and then said that he's gained extra muscle and hasn't lost a step. And I think there's a lot of enthusiasm for Edgerrin Cooper heading into this season after the year that he had, and especially towards the end of the season. I mean, he, to me, was one of their most instinctive linebackers that they've had in a long time. And we saw what he was able to do on the field and such. And I think there's an enthusiasm surrounding Edgerrin Cooper. I mean, I think there's a big enthusiasm surrounding him, and there's a hope that, he doesn't have that sophomore hit in the wall, that we've seen some guys have in their second year in the league. I think there's a ton of enthusiasm and a ton of excitement. I think there's a big expectation, I would argue, for Edgerrin Cooper this year, and I hope it's not at such a huge expectation level to where if he has a little bit of an up and down season or maybe a little inconsistent, which we've seen a lot for second year guys, that people are quick to jump off the bandwagon for Cooper. So I hope it's not to that second year. We don't set that bar so incredibly high for a second year guy that if he doesn't quite reach it, it's like, what the heck is wrong with him? It's like the Devontae Adams effect. Second year, it's like, what a bum. Get rid of him. Trade him. Move on from him.